Giannis, no problem. After struggling without their star player in Game 4, the Bucks took the series lead last night in dominating fashion. 4 of the Bucks' 5 starters scored 22 points or more en route to a Game 5 victory. The Hawks, meanwhile, searching for answers without Trae Young, who's been averaging 32.7 points per game in this series. Freddie, what was the biggest reason for the Bucks' win last night?
Attitude, to be honest with you, because they weren't having it last night. It's one thing to have production, but they play with an attitude in terms of, you know what, we're tired of just sitting back and letting the Atlanta Hawks dictate, which the Atlanta Hawks had done to great effect before Trae Young when he was there, then after Trae Young got injured. We saw it happen in Game 4, how they're able to just step on the Bucks' throat early and not even back up before Giannis got injured and after Giannis got injured. The Atlanta Hawks found out that could happen to them, and the Milwaukee Bucks did it. And I firmly believe it started when Jrue Holiday got that first 2 points in the paint, and then Brook Lopez said, hey, if that's good for you, then it's good for me. Then everybody else was able to do the same thing. They forced Nate McMillan to challenge his basketball team to say, what's up with you guys? Where are you guys? He could not believe that a Bucks team that is known for being a finesse team was being the tougher basketball team, was being the more physical basketball team. So we can talk about production all we want. It was great production by the Milwaukee Bucks getting in the paint, but that attitude adjustment was the biggest reason why they were able to win. Brook Lopez is normally a guy that loves camping on the outside and taking three-point shots. He said, He got those paint touches, and he put it on those smaller guys. That big dude played like a big dude last night. For me, it's one thing to have production, but that attitude and taking advantage and using that to great effect against the Atlanta Hawks, to me, was the biggest reason why the Milwaukee Bucks have a 3-2 series lead in this one.
Okay, and before we get to you, Keyshawn, let's welcome in the great Vince Carter. Welcome, Vince. Thanks for being here. How you doing?
Guys? Yes, thanks for having me.
So we want to ask you, what was the biggest reason last night for the Bucks win?
Freddie alluded to it. I think first and foremost, Jrue Holiday imposing his will in the post, not settling for jump shots. The first play of the game in the post, quick elbow jump hook. Next, Chris Middleton with the jump shot, and then everyone followed suit from there. Brook Lopez and the battery pack, a.k.a. Bobby Portis, brought his energy and his will and effort. He imposed his will on the offensive glass as well as the defensive glass. And once they hit the Hawks in the mouth, when you're in, I'm going to say this, when you're on the road, like for the Hawks, you're saying, hey, the first 5 minutes, stand strong, take the blow, and then we go from there. Well, they took the blow, but they were never able to bounce back. They got within 7 points, but that was it. And that's because of Bobby Portis and Brook Lopez in the paint, dominating.
What I would say, VC, is I say, you know what? Home court advantage always plays a part, and not having your star player in Trae Young certainly played a part. And I know Trae Young has been streaky at times, but his motivation, who he is as a player, being on the court to help his team facilitate, spacing things out. And Clint Capella didn't play him particularly well at all. He was bully balled in the paint. There was no real adjustments made by Nate McMillan. But again, when you don't have your star player on the floor, sometimes that can be very difficult. And I know they beat them at home in Atlanta, but that gave the home court advantage to Atlanta Hawks. So the energy that they were missing from Speedy Gonzalez, they got from the crowd. And then when you think about it now, they're going back home for Game 6. Whether it's Trae Young or not, I think at the same time, VC, they will wind up figuring out a way how to neutralize Brook Lopez, because I can't see or believe that Brook Lopez and Portis are going to do the same things they did in Game 5 again in Atlanta for Game 6.
Well, I look at one thing that Coach Nate McMillan said before the game. The team that hits first will win, because you're setting the tone on how you want to play, and you're trying to establish yourself before the other team. Well, the Hawks did not do that on the road for whatever reason. The Bucks understood how important this game is to them. So they said, what? No Giannis? No problem. We're going to put the big fella in the post so he can play in the post. Because if you think about it, he had more space to operate. And that's why we see Brook Lopez a lot on the perimeter, because they give Giannis the space he needs to operate. Now Brook Lopez gets the opportunity to operate in the post with 4 guys around the perimeter, and they found that to work. When they took him out, Bobby Portis plays down there in the post. So, and if not, they put the 2 bigs out there and let Jrue Holiday. So they felt like, hey, we're going to beat you up, we're going to score in the post, and what are you going to do about it? So like you said, home cooking for the Hawks, and the formula of we play better at home is hopefully is enough. But when you bring Trae Young into the picture, you mentioned Trae. So you bring Trae, hopefully, if he's not able to play to that 32 point per game ability, he can make plays for these guys to knock down shots.
Vince, what is it about in terms of a game like this if you're the Bucks? Because not trying to slight Mike Budenholzer, but it seemed to me that the Bucks were more about motivating themselves as players to get into the paint, even if that was the game plan. How much of that is more of a players thing now where you can say we can get whatever we want from the coach, but it's really on us to set this tone and not have to worry about carrying out instructions or the game plan from the head coach in this situation?
I think it's a little bit of both in understanding what works and where your mismatches and what you can take advantage of. And they felt like they could take advantage of bully ball in the post, because when Giannis is aggressive and not settling for 3-point shots or mid-range and getting to the basket, they were successful. And you mentioned earlier that game 3, that's what they did. Giannis attack into the paint. Well, now they said we have no Giannis. We need our bigs or our post-up guys to be aggressive. So now look for the Bucks to utilize that again, to be aggressive. But how do you offset that? Well, you have to attack them on the other end, bring Brook Lopez out on the perimeter to guard. And when they did that, they got him in foul trouble and they got him off the floor because he couldn't guard guards downhill in pick and roll.
VC, when you look at it and Trae Young, let's assume Trae Young doesn't play for whatever weird reason because he tried to warm up and it didn't look good, so he decided to sit this one out. Can Lou Will, along with Bogdanovic, spread the floor, like you're saying, on switches, bring Lopez in? Now all of a sudden they can knock down threes and get into that type of rhythm that they had in game 4 while they're at home?
Yeah, Key, I tell you, Lou Will did not play well. Bogdanovic, Bogey, he was fantastic, 28 points, but Lou Will didn't particularly play well, and he had those switches, and he really could not get by him without a contest by Lopez. So look for them to kind of to get Lopez on the run first, having to guard multiple actions into an isolation. And with the live dribble, you look for some things like that. You can't just pick and roll, switch, attack. They were prepared for that. But if he has to guard multiple actions, now you kind of get him late on the switch, then you attack him, make him put his hands on you and foul. That is something I think I would try to utilize for Game 6.
Okay, Vince, there are some clear adjustments that can be made, but in your opinion, after what you saw last night, is this series over?
I mean, it all depends on what you get out of Trae Young, first and foremost. I'm going to root for my Hawks regardless. I'm only a year removed, and they're doing this, when I leave. That's another story for another day. But, but no, I think home cooking is good. But if they cannot make the adjustment of stopping these guys in the post, it's going to be a long night, and they go home. So no Trae Young, they could possibly go home. So I'm going to say the Hawks going to pull this off.
All right. Okay. Well, Vince, we always appreciate you. Thank you so much for your time. Also, your insight.
Thanks, guys.
We really appreciate having you. All right. Let's keep it moving. Our friend Big Perk said if Chris Paul wins the title this year, it means more than a normal championship. Is that true? Our guys debate.